Am I the a-hole for divorcing my wife after she refused to help me financially in difficult times? I, 30 male, am divorcing my wife, 30 female of 4 years because she did not help me financially when I needed it. I work in a very niche industry, and last year or so has been really difficult due to market conditions. Many of my colleagues got laid off, and so was I. At the time, I had newly refurbished our home, so I was in debt. My wife also works, but she earned less than me back then. I went to her and asked if she can help me while I search for work. I proposed that we should sell some of the gold that was given to us at the wedding. We live in Turkey, and there is a tradition of giving gold to newlyweds to help them financially. These are meant to be used during difficult times. She rejected the idea and said, "I do not want to sell my golds." I tried to reason with her by saying that closing the debt would greatly help us to have a more stable financials. She refused and told me to sort it out myself somehow. I asked her to at least use some of her savings and I can pay it back. Context here is that I let her save most of her earnings while paying most of the things myself due to women being vulnerable to financial changes more than men here. I wanted her to build her own savings and made sure to help her with a retirement account as well. I asked her to give me some of her savings for that, and I can pay her back once I sort myself out. She refused that too. This period has been extremely difficult for me. I fell into depression and contemplated my choices in life. Funny thing is, everything was going great before this, and I thought we would stay together through thick and thin. My older sister helped me to pay the monthly installments during that time. God bless her soul. At the beginning of this year, I found a great job in the same industry and I'm thriving now. I could not look at my wife in the same way after what happened and started divorce talks with a lawyer friend of mine. Last month, I let her know my decision and she was served with divorce papers soon after. For her, apparently, it was an unexpected thing, and she was shocked. She tried to talk me out of it, but I was firm in my decision. Families tend to be involved with each other here, and that was the case for us too. She put families in between as mediators, but I do not want to be married to someone who will not help me during difficult times, especially when I was considering their financial well-being. Most of my family supports my decision, though they would like me to reconsider it if possible. I know every other thing is without a problem, but I cannot get over what happened. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. After marriage, there is only we. We have his income at our income, and we choose to spend them like this. In your case, to build the wife's savings. But when we, that is the unit that is the family of two, gets a lower income, then we need to decide how we are solving it together. She refused that, so she opted out of belonging to a family unit together with OP. The divorce is a logical conclusion of what she already chose to do. Why was the wife so shocked? Is she playing denial game? Not really. It's because she expected him to man up and deal with the situation himself. This has been argued about for years. Women ask why men don't talk to them about their problems. Men say because when they did, they got little to no support and even belittled. The only difference is in this case, the man ended the relationship after realizing he was on his own. So I imagine most of the people in OP's life think he's overreacting by leaving. If this post was in a different subreddit, comments would unfortunately be less supportive. They'd be telling OP his wife isn't his mother, calling him weak and or other something similar. Bingo. I am married and my wife is not like this. But I have married male friends. They tried to open and communicate or hit a rough patch, and their wives were either not supportive or look at them as less after a struggle. And I am African American, and it's 10 times worse in our community. A lot of men feel we were lied to. A lot of talk about women wanting to be equal partners and all that. But if the man loses his job or stumbles, all that stuff goes out the window. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to reconnect with my family who disowned me 22 years ago? Super long story that happened 22 years ago. I'm now a 41 male. I'm one of 4 kids growing up in Adelaide, Australia. I have an older brother and 2 younger sisters. A couple of days after my 19th birthday, the daughter of a close family friends of ours who we considered like family accused me of SA during my birthday party. My family took her side of the story, and I was disowned and kicked out of the family house. I then had to move in with my aunt and her family, who lives in another city, Melbourne, 8 hours away, and had to rebuild my life from the ground up again. Fast forward 22 years later, I went and finished university, met my now wife, and now have a family of my own with 2 young kids, 10-year-old and 7-year-old. My aunt and her husband have been my rock throughout this whole time. They believed in me. It even helped me in those early years to get back on my feet. Even today, my family would be going over to their house on a weekly basis for family meals with her family. Fast forward to about 3 weeks ago in late March. My auntie called to tell me to come over as my father and siblings were at their house and they wanted to speak to me. I was reluctant, but my auntie strongly advised I come, as I want to hear what they now have to say. When I arrived at auntie's place, sure enough, there were my old family, siblings at all. They were just much older now, but it was definitely them. Cut the long story short and give you the gist of it. I asked them what they wanted. My father and siblings spent the next few minutes apologizing and explaining to me that they had just recently found out from the horse's mouth that the accusation was all false. They started crying, begging me for my forgiveness and hoping we could reconnect. When they had their turn to speak, I just calmly told them no and got up to leave. My older brother begged me to stay and try to work this out. He said we were a family. When I heard him say this, I just told them all, no, you're not. They're just strangers to me now. My real family were my aunt and her family. Her sons were my siblings. They were my best men/groomsmen at my wedding. I'd even changed my surname to my aunt's husband's surname. When my father heard this, he completely broke down. I didn't care. I thought I would be angry or something along those lines, but I wasn't. I felt nothing for these people. They were just strangers to me now. I didn't even ask about how the truth came out. I didn't want to know. I didn't care. I told them never to contact me again. They're dead to me, as I was to them all those years ago. At this point, everyone from my old family just broke down and cried. I know their tears were genuine, but again, I felt nothing for them. After this, I just left. My aunt has been checking in on me over the next few days to encourage me to forgive and forget. But I said I had nothing to forgive, as these people were strangers to me. She respected my decision. So am I the a-hole for not wanting to reconnect with my family? Not the a-hole. They didn't give you a chance and sent you out to the wolves. Can't let 2 decades go by and then say, yo, oops, water under the bridge, right? This is my basic impression too. It was 22 years, not 2 years. Why would the OP want to reopen these wounds after more than 2 decades? He's lived more of his life without them than with them. It would be a giant time suck, dealing with it all, and the payoff doesn't seem worth it. At this point, it would be like meeting strangers who insist on not having boundaries. After 22 years, they are strangers, not a family. Even 22 years back, they did not behave like a family. If I was accused of Fast A, my family would believe me unless they saw a solid proof, like a video, because we have a very good relationship and trust built over our whole life. I would try to give them a second chance, but that's me, not you. Not the a-hole, whatever your decision will be. Reminds me of another story that was posted last year in a similar vein. OP was disowned due to a false accusation, and the family wanted to reconnect after finding out it was a lie. I've always wondered, what does the victim get out of reconciliation? It's been years. They're nobody. Why open old wounds for people completely irrelevant to you? There are many stories that are similar. My question is, what happens to the accuser when the truth comes out? Everyone expects for the accused to forgive, but does the accuser ever given the same banishment/punishment as the person they accused? After 2 decades, the answer to your question is almost certainly no. A buddy of mine in university was falsely accused of the same. The accuser simply got a long-term academic probation as punishment. This was 15 years ago. I don't think a lot has changed in that time. I had a friend accused. Turns out he was in an entirely different state on the date she accused him of assaulting her. She just said, oopsie, and accused someone else. Not a damn thing happened to her, not even a slap on the wrist. Next story. Am I the a-hole for airing out my ex-wife's business when she tried to make me seem horrible? Okay, so I'm 30 male and my ex-wife Cindy, 34, share custody of our little girl Autumn, who is 6. We were together 8 years, married for 6, and been divorced for 2. This Wednesday just gone, I had Autumn at my house for the weekend. We were having dinner and watching some kids show I don't remember the name of. One of the characters basically was saying how you should always be kind and spread love, and a lot of stuff. And she says that she wished mom was always kind because it upsets her when she isn't. I asked her when she is not kind and was she unkind to her, and she said no, she was unkind about people she cared about. I again asked who is she unkind about. Apparently, me, my family, her sister, and Autumn's school friends. She mentioned what she said and to who she'd heard her say it to, and I comforted her and said I'd try and help the situation. That night, I got in contact with the people Autumn mentioned. A lot of them had been friends of mine and Cindy during our relationship. I had noticed they talked to me less after we divorced, but I just assumed they picked a side or were closer with Cindy. A lot of them confirmed what Autumn had said. I was honestly crushed, because I hated that she was being horrible about me in front of my child, and the fact she was lying about me and the reason we got a divorce. To sum up, during our relationship, these are things Cindy did to me. She was very insecure and would go through my phone and work laptop constantly, deleting contacts, even family members and clients off of them. Changed my social media passwords and said I could only look at them on her phone with her. Accused me of cheating constantly with my coworkers. Would demand sex, and if I said no or didn't want to, she'd accuse me of getting it elsewhere until I gave in. Would stain my clothes on purpose. I did/do and have done my own washing, and then she'd spill stuff in my clothes constantly, even once they were dried away in the drawers I had. Physically hurting me when I tried to leave the house. Insulting my appearance constantly, saying that no one else would want me anyway. Telling me when Autumn was 2 that she wasn't mine, and showing me proof she'd cheated on me. Autumn is mine. We got a paternity test and a divorce. Telling me no one else would ever love me or want me because of a scar I have. Told me constantly that my family wished it was me that died instead of my brother. I had/have proof of all of this and showed my friends. The ones Autumn mentioned it more, and family. I was tempted to show hers too, but left it at that. I got back to her. She called me screaming and saying I had no right, and she was just venting to her friends. I said you were lying about me and making me sound like a horrible person in front of my daughter. She said that my friends already didn't like me, so why did I matter? And she deserved to be comforted when she was upset. I hung up on her. I'm seriously considering going for full custody or making it, so we don't have to see each other when I pick Autumn up. I want to limit contact as much as possible. I do feel bad now as I get it was private between us, but she didn't honor that, so why should I? Edit? I tried to get full custody at the time of divorcing Cindy. It was ruled that she wasn't a threat to her, and due to my bipolar, I wasn't fit for full custody. Which was ridiculous. I've been medicated since I was 21 and haven't had a mental health breakdown since then. Even with all the stuff I was put through. I also appealed this decision and was met with the same result. I love my daughter and would die for her, and I'm trying to do my best by her. However, it's not an easy situation. At the moment, I make sure all my time with her is happy and full of love, laughter, and fun. I make sure she has everything she needs, and always will do. Now for the top comments. She made it other people's business when she spread lies about you. So no, it wasn't private business between you two anymore. What she did was slander. And if you telling people the truth upsets her, that's her own fault for lying in the first place. Even the fact she needed to lie to be comforted by those people tells you she's an a-hole. So good on you for clearing your name. And who cares what she thinks about it? Also, go for full custody as she's poisoning your daughter against you, which is not good for you as it goes on longer. Thank you. I will be contacting a lawyer ASAP. I'm hoping with my proof of how she is, I can get full custody with visitation, as I wouldn't want to cut her out completely as I know Autumn loves her mom. But I know she'd be safer and happier with me. Not only was it slander, because she said it in front of your daughter, it was parental alienation. Good luck. Sounds like abuse or DV. Is your daughter safe? I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Not a-hole. You didn't deserve what she did to you. You were already very gracious to wait so long to tell people what an abuser she was. Yes, she's safe. Cindy wouldn't hurt her. She just used her as a tool to hurt me. The only thing I can say about her parenting is she's a lazy parent, and healthy food and unclean house, and nothing to mentally stimulate Autumn. She basically just leaves her to her own devices when she's there. I am going to try for full custody again, as is not how I want my child raised. Last story. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my parents because they can't accept the fact I've moved on from my ex so quickly? Hello everyone, I will try to keep this as short as possible, but for some context, I 27 male broke up with my ex because she had an affair 4 to 5 days ago now. I didn't spread bad word about her, I just blocked her everywhere and left a nice note for her. Yesterday, I decided to hang out with someone I met online, which led to me posting a pic on my private story with her. Unfortunately, one of my close friends snitched to my ex about me moving on so quickly, which led to my ex bawling her eyes out to my parents and them scolding me. So I cut off my close friend because he made his choice. In the past few days, I've lost a 7-year relationship and a 10-year friendship with a man who guided me when I came to the UK for university. But to be honest, I felt nothing. No sorrow, just regret with my choices. However, I do feel sorrow with the choice I made today. My parents are complete a-holes. When I ghosted my ex and left without a trace, my ex went to them and started bawling her eyes out. And they scolded me for not hearing out her perspective, which honestly made me chuckle, because what perspective is there? When my friend snitched to my ex telling her that I hanged out with a girl, she once again bawled her eyes out and they scolded me for moving on so quickly. I honestly don't understand why they love her so much but hate me. So I finally had enough and decided to message them telling them I want nothing to do with them and I will block them. However, it seems like they told everyone in my extended family tree, as everyone is against my decision, apart from my siblings as they have first-hand experience about how much of an a-hole my parents are. So am I the a-hole? Is this choice too extreme or am I doing the right thing? My parents are practically fossils as well, so I have to consider this for long term. Edit, my parents know about the affair, but I have crap talked about my ex because I don't care about her anymore. No need to show any feelings towards. That's the best way for revenge. Once they cheat, you can do or date anyone anytime and no one can tell you anything. To hell with all of them. And when someone tells you that your ex is taking it badly, just laugh like you have never laughed before and ask them what did your ex-ho expect, then laugh some more. If she was that upset, she wouldn't have jumped on another dude's lap. Some people have a lot of nerve. Block them all and go have a good time. She lost all rights to you the minute she cheated. Yep, my ex broke up with me. According to the code, I was free to date. I had a few friends get into my case about dating my now wife after my ex broke up with me. It's my life, I do what I want. Did you ever tell and provide evidence that she cheated? When I found out my ex cheated and I was divorcing her, my attorney told me to not play nice. As a matter of fact, he told me if I display nice, he would drop me as a client. Ex told so many lies, including that we were divorcing because I repeatedly beat her, as ate her, basically every triggering thing in the book. She also threatened to and then did injure herself, then called the police and have me arrested. When the police showed up to arrest me, I was able to talk to them and show them our text history. They didn't arrest me, but said they were doing a report and submit it, and to expect a call from detectives. I lost a lot of friends and eventually my sisters, because I didn't respond to her accusations. When my attorney finally said those magic words, blow up her world, I did. I forwarded her texts, photos, a copy of the false police report, a copy of the video where she was in bed with her affair partner talking smack about me, etc. Her parents, who repeatedly threatened to remove my existence from this earth, showed up at my door along with my ex's younger sister. They cried as they apologized for what they said and that they believed what she had said. Her dad told me he had disowned her and had thrown her out of his home, and her younger sister told me she refused to let my ex stay with her. Many friends who abandoned me because of what she said apologized, and I still blocked them, because they obviously weren't really my friends ever. The ones who stood by me because they did know me and really were my friends, I still have today. Give all these people the information, the knowledge you have about what she has done, and let them figure out what they would have done. Then and only then block them, because they definitely do not have your best interests at heart. Am I the a-hole for not using my son's college tuition to help bail my stepdaughter out of credit card debt? I have been remarried to my amazing new wife for about 6 years now. She has moved in with me along with her now 23-year-old daughter. After my most recent divorce, I have saved money aside so I can put my son through college. He has just turned 18 now. My stepdaughter unfortunately has had difficulties managing her money responsibly. She has gone on shopping sprees during the pandemic using the CARE Act stimulus checks from the government to buy herself Louis Vuitton bags and red bottom heels. We understand that she has put herself in a difficult position. That's why we're considering bailing her out just once to help her. My wife says that we should use the money from my son's college fund to bail her out. I refuse to, because I have saved that money specifically for my son. My wife is upset. She thinks that we should operate as a team and treat each child as if they were our own. Am I the a-hole in this situation? Now for the top comments before reading the little update. Not the a-hole. Using extra savings? Sure. But she's asking you to take away from your son to help her daughter. Blood or not, she's literally asking you to prioritize one kid over the other. Kind of hypocritical. Have discussed extra savings but have left the college fund off the table. Do you think she's just mad that she doesn't have access to it? Yes, I think she wants to spend it rather than let your son have it. Don't let her have access. That is for your son's future. Do not let your wife take the money to spend on the irresponsible daughter. Can you imagine how his son would feel? Dad paid off my stepsister's Louis Vuitton accessories with my college fund, so now I'm waiting tables and going half-time at school. Won't graduate until I'm 25, and will probably be in debt from student loans. But it's all good, because my sister's horrible credit rating got a bump for a couple of months. She just trashed it again after those couple of months, because why not? Mom and stepdad will bail her out again, right? You ever touch the money you have saved for your son's education to pay off a 23-year-old woman's shopping spree bad decisions? Then you will be the a-hole. Your wife is the one to talk. Tell her your son will be spreeing on his education. Who's gonna pay off the credit card for him? Not the a-hole. Honestly, 23 is old enough to know better, and I'm wondering if she's tried reselling her fancy items to chip away at the debt. If she hasn't sold her items, I wouldn't give her a penny. Of course, you're not the a-hole. Your stepdaughter can get a job like an adult and pay off her credit card. If your wife wants to give her a loan from her own finances, that's fine and dandy. But you shouldn't punish the good kid because the bad kid doesn't know how to behave. Edit. Thank you for all the responses. I didn't realize this post was going to blow up. I have decided I will not be providing my stepdaughter any funds out of my son's college tuition. My wife and I have scheduled counseling to discuss further steps. Rest assured, my stepdaughter will have to learn to cover this herself. Will not be responsible and will not punish my son because of poor spending on her side. Again, thank you for all the replies. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my brother-in-law after he told people I was their au pair? Hi. My 22 female sister's husband had a formal work party where they were supposed to bring their families. As soon as we got there, the host came to greet us and she told me that the other girls are in the backyard. I see women around my age separated from the party with a lot of children and realized they were the babysitters/au pairs. I didn't mind and went there since I was there to take care of the children anyways. At one point, someone asked me if I was the last name's au pair because they were asking for me. I didn't care that people assumed. I'm on the age range for it, and it's not common for people to bring their sisters to small parties like that, so it was okay. At some point, a pregnant couple was talking about being indecisive about getting an au pair, and everyone very happily started talking about it, because apparently rich people are proud of having expensive workers as much as they're proud of having expensive cars. They started discussing about prizes, what are and aren't acceptable chores for au pairs to have, and when everyone started giving examples of what their au pairs do, my brother-in-law said that his only did kids-related chores. I chuckled and pointed that I also make breakfast for him, which I do. I thought that the rudeness/disrespect of butting in on a conversation and contradicting him would be enough, but it wasn't. There was a playground around the corner, and the babysitters were organizing the things to take the kids there. My niece ran to her dad to ask if Auntie could take her there with the rest of the kids. Someone questioned him why he calls me Auntie, and he told them he thought that having the kids calling me Auntie would make them more comfortable with me. I said, and I thought that having him marrying my sister would make him nicer to me. My sister wasn't at any of the two occasions. We left the party an hour after that, and he still is super mad. He said I shouldn't try to make him look bad in front of people from the work that pays for my living, and that it wouldn't have hurt my pride to just stay quiet for one night, since I don't even know these people anyways. I'm feeling super guilty, and I feel like I might be the a-hole, because even if it isn't official, I kinda am their au pair. I do chores and help around, and they let me live rent-free and take care of my bills, so I think it was kinda ungrateful of me. And I also understand that they're one of the youngest couples, and therefore less successful of the business, so he just wanted to fit in and not be the poor one that didn't have a full-time employee. My sister said it was not a big deal, but is still mad, and I feel like an A for sleeping in the house he bought while having disrespected him like that. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. He disrespected you. Your family, and he cares more how they see him. He lied to them. That makes him an a-hole. He is trying to keep up with the Joneses. Yeah, he was treating Opie like a servant, and distancing himself from Opie with the way he talked about her. Honestly, I feel like not all rich people are snobs. They would be more skeptical about a liar than someone whose younger sister came along to play with her niece and enjoy the party. A family man. There were literally parents there, or people who were soon to be parents. Opie's brother-in-law missed the opportunity to say, "Well, my wife's sister likes to help us out with our daughter. It saves us money, and we can trust her with our daughter. We appreciate her helping us, so we invited her along." The pregnant couple was also talking about how much to pay the person, so this would have been a good way to put it, and it shows he is an appreciative person who also values family. He dug his own grave by lying and the truth comes out. Everyone there seemed into kids/families, so it probably would have been fine if Opie was just Auntie instead of Auntie the babysitter. Not the a-hole. As someone who could easily afford to hire a few au pairs, your brother-in-law is an a-hole. I grew up with few au pairs, off and on. There's nothing wrong with talking about au pairs or how much they contract out for, as long as the contract stipulates you can. What matters is how you treat and talk to/about people helping your family. Absolutely this, and thank you for saying it. Also, that little white lie could have a snowball effect for future events with his co-workers. He set a precedent, and Opie would be expected to keep up the charade. Good for Opie for speaking up in a gentle and playful way. Not the a-hole. You're his sister-in-law, not his employee. You honestly were doing him a favor just by watching his kid, and he was overstepping his bounds with you. Do not buckle to him. He was the rude one here. And if he cares about looking rich around all his work buddies, he can go and actually get an au pair. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out after her son gave my dog dreadlocks? My sister is a single mom with one son, 14. They have been staying at my place for the past few because they lost their apartment, and she's saving up money to get a new apartment. She, however, has driven me crazy lately. She's up late at night on the phone or watching TV. I go to work at 3:30 a.m., so I've been getting less sleep. Her son constantly bothers my daughter. She has brought men over from the bars, etc. She doesn't do chores. They make messes, and I've addressed these issues so many times that I get ignored. The final straw came when I came home from work last night and I saw that my dog had dreadlocks. Not a lot, but like maybe 8 or so. WTF? I'm not sure if that's alright. He sure didn't seem comfortable and was pawing at them. I'm worried because I've heard horror stories about people who didn't wash properly and nasty stuffs grow inside of dreadlocks. I asked him about it, and he said he thought it looked cool and is not finished yet. I was so pissed when I saw that, and later I found out he posted it on TikTok. That was the final straw. I told my sister she had to leave. She, of course, pulled the whole "but we're family" card, saying how she's a struggling mom and how it's just a dog and it's not a big deal. I told her I'm sick of this. He knew better. And quite honestly, I'm tired of them living with me. She, of course, called my parents, who sided with me thankfully, but our siblings and cousins took her side, who bombarded me with texts and calls telling me I need to take them back. She eventually moved in with my brother. Anyways, I'm wondering if I did the right thing here. I feel bad because they're struggling, but giving my dog dreadlocks was just crossing the line. Not the a-hole. They took her side because they're scared she's going to try and live with them. Take your dog to a groomer ASAP. The dog could get so uncomfortable that he rips them out and then gets an infection. In addition, who knows what he used to bind them. I would be throwing their crap out the windows the moment I saw my pup. That's not how grateful guests behave. Not the a-hole. I would have kicked her out when she started bringing random men into your house when you have a daughter at home and didn't clean up after herself. Didn't realize it sounded so bad from how I wrote it. My house has a garage that's not attached to the main building, which is where her bedroom is. She brought men there, not inside the main building, that I know of. Not the a-hole. Our siblings and cousins took her side, who bombarded me with texts and calls. Did these helpful individuals offer to take her in while they were berating you? A struggling mom, who was really struggling, would be appreciative of your generosity and take care to treat your place and the inhabitants respectfully. My brother did. However, he wasn't so hostile about it like the others were. Some of them live in other states, but the rest didn't, so yeah, you got a point there. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend it was my sister who stole his stuff from him despite my parents' disapproval? I, female 25, have been with my boyfriend Adam, male 26, for over a year. He's so wonderful and adores my family and loves visiting them regularly. There was an accident about a week ago while me and Adam were visiting my parents for dinner. His stuff, his phone, car keys, medication, and $200 was gone missing. We looked all over the house but couldn't find the stuff. My 18-year-old sister was in her room the entire time, except for a few minutes to ask what we were looking for. Me and Adam had to go home in an Uber still feeling shaken up and confused. Adam kept stressing out about his medication, which is the most valuable among the stuff he lost, and had a hard time getting replacement for it. I went back to my parents the next day to continue looking for Adam's missing stuff, and found it in my sister's room, the only place we didn't look. I was dumbfounded. I waited for her to come back from school and confronted her. My mom started making excuses instead of asking my sister why she took Adam's stuff. I shamed her and said I was going to tell Adam, and will absolutely support him if he decides to take legal action since the $200 weren't returned. Mom freaked out and begged me to lie to Adam and say I found his stuff in the bathroom cabinet instead of saying my sister stole it. But I refused. My sister broke down crying, saying if I tell Adam, I'll ruin her relationship with him. But I believe he needed to know the house he enters isn't safe for him. Mom said she couldn't believe I'm willing to encourage Adam to take legal action and ruin my sister's chance to her college application. My parents said they'd cut me off if this happens. This was the last time we talked. 2 days ago, Adam told me Mom called saying they found his stuff in the bathroom cabinet and gave it to me, but I was keeping it. I was stunned. Okay, first of all, the stuff is in my possession. Yes, but I was waiting on Mom and Dad to pay the $200 so I could have my sister return them to my boyfriend along with the other stuff and apologize, hoping we'd work this out without involving authorities. But Mom went ahead of me and told the story she made up to Adam. I laid out the facts to him and told him what really happened. That my sister stole his stuff, and that despite being ashamed of Mom and sister, I still gave them the opportunity to resolve this peacefully. Then I told him I support him in whatever decision he makes. Adam was in dismay and very upset he confronted my parents, and they kept denying. Mom was furious. She kept crying, saying I failed to do them this one small favor to tell a white lie to Adam, but I just ruined the entire family's relationship with him, and anything that comes out of this is my fault after making them look like liars and my sister like a vicious thief. My whole family are in conflict and are shaming me for exposing my sister and making a fuss over a small mistake. I haven't seen Adam since the day he found out. Neither party are happy, and I'm being blamed and accused of escalating things. Everyone sucks here. Almost. I'm going with your A-Slight A-Hall because you didn't return the stuff to Adam and tell him what happened the day you found it. Your family's a pile of major A-Halls. Your sister needs the consequences which are due to her. Adam's not an a-hole. Yeah, I don't get why Opie didn't immediately give him his stuff. That was just a weird choice. Especially medication. And Opie's sister didn't make a small mistake. She stole from Adam, came out, asked what they were looking for, and when she knew it was the stuff she stole, she just slunk back to her room. She knowingly stole all of his things. And the parents are like, no big deal. And Mom and her lies? What the hell? Someone in the damn family still shoved it in the bathroom and took the $200. What is wrong with this entire family? Everyone sucks here except Adam. Your family sucks for obvious reasons, but so do you. You should have told him the moment you returned and located his stuff and given him the opportunity to take whatever action he needed to. The truth of it is that you broke his trust by waiting for the money and then hopefully sweeping it under the rug. Your delay and lack of honesty meant that your mother was able to feed him the narrative that painted you in the worst light. Of course he won't trust you again, or at least shouldn't. You're acting just like your entitled family no matter what your intent was. Actually, this is an interesting angle I hadn't considered. Would Opie have outed her family if her mom wouldn't have told her bonehead story? Because it kind of seems like maybe they convinced her to shut up. Why wouldn't you just tell him the truth and then tell him you're working on recouping his $200? I'm kind of wavering on whether she was actually as committed to the truth as she claims now. Info. Why did you wait 2 whole days to give him back his meds and his phone? I waited for my parents to get the $200 as I told them to. Then I was planning on having a family meeting where my sister comes clean about what she did. $200 is a lot. It's not easy to get that much money, and I know how much Adam worked for it. I get it. But if I were without my meds and phone for 2 extra days because my girlfriend wanted to get everything back to me all at once, I'd be pissed about that too. Very minor a-hole move by you, but overall not a-hole. My wife is demanding I stop giving money to my ex. I'll start by saying that the money I give my ex is for my kids, 11, 13, and 16. I don't pay a set amount of child support every month, but I support my kids. My ex and I worked out an arrangement, had lawyers look it over, and then filed those documents with the court. Our arrangement is legal. At the end of each month, my ex and I meet to discuss the upcoming month's expenses: rent, food, school, health insurance, extracurriculars. Whatever expenses are needed for the kids, we sit down and discuss. Some months, my kids need more. Some months, they don't. I also put money aside each month for emergencies. For instance, when my ex broke her leg, I covered her while she was off work. And when her mom died and she couldn't afford to pay for her and the kids to fly to her hometown, I covered for the kids. My ex goes the extra mile for me too when I need it. When my parked car was totaled by joyriding kids, she lent me her car until I got another. Or when my wife and I had to isolate during the pandemic due to COVID, my ex did our shopping for us and even brought over some home-cooked meals. This is the type of co-parenting relationship we have, and I'm not willing to change it. It works for us, and more importantly, it works for our kids. My wife has 2 kids, 16 and 18, and her relationship with her dad is toxic. They can't be around each other without getting into arguments. Both she and her ex blame each other for the end of their relationship, and neither is willing to set aside their issues for the kids. Early on in our relationship, my wife tried to involve me, but I told her that wasn't happening. Her kids love their dad as much as they love their mom, and I didn't want to make an enemy of a man I didn't know. Now that I do know him, I see he's a good guy. The problem with the money I give my ex started earlier this year. My wife's ex lost his job. He found another, but it doesn't pay as much. So his child support was reduced because of his income change, and then reduced again when their eldest turned 18. I never asked how much child support he paid or what my wife did with it. I saw it as something between her and her ex, just like the arrangement I have with my ex is between her and me. The kids were taken care of, they didn't lack anything, and she never asked me to cover anything for them besides what I would normally pay for as their dependents under my roof. I didn't need to know more than that, but now she says she's not getting enough and doesn't have enough for things like getting her hair done, spa days, her insurance, phone, and putting gas in her car. She wants me to cover these things. I have a set amount of money coming in each month, and every dollar is accounted for. I pay for my kids, my mortgage, my bills, food, insurances, and everything I need to pay. That's a lot of money going out each month. I don't have much left for savings once that's all gone. But my wife wants what's left, and she wants me to cut back on what I give my ex. What I don't understand is, where's her money? She works part-time, still gets support from 1 child, and doesn't contribute financially to the household, except for takeout dinners she brings home once or twice a month. So, where is her money? We've been fighting for months about money. I view her demands to cut what I give my ex as her wanting to take from my kids. She used to have a great relationship with my kids, but now she treats them as though they're obstacles to getting what she sees as rightfully hers. I've told her repeatedly over the past few months that I'm not going to let my kids go without, so she can get her nails done. In our last argument, she told me my attitude needed to change, that I need to start putting her first, or she'd consider whether or not she wants to remain married to me. In anger, I told her to call her lawyer after she moves the heck out of my house. Am I in the wrong here? Am I the a-hole? Sounds like she needs to work full-time if she's broke. And being a product of a broken home, I want to say good for you for being what sounds like a wonderful co-parent. It makes such a difference to children when they see their parents working together. Her youngest is 16. Why is she still working part-time? And what happens when that child turns 18 and the child support ends? Will she make even more demands? OP needs to shut this nonsense down now. Not a-hole. So you witnessed this toxic game playing with the ex, and this lack of putting her children first, and thought, wow, I want to tie myself to this woman. What a catch! Now this absolute peach wants to destroy your frankly ideal co-parenting relationship and have your children go without for her personal gain? Yeah, no. You're the a-hole for marrying this example of poor decisions, but not the a-hole for being unwilling to cave other demands. I'm imagining how unpleasant your children's experiences with her and how it never had to be that way. Get the damn divorce and be more selective about who your children are forced into relationships with. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my girlfriend childish and telling her to leave after she intentionally destroyed a gift that I got from my little sister? My girlfriend Megan and I live together. She had a fight with her parents and asked if we could move in together, so we did. Not too long ago, I had to take my little sister in. I can't disclose much except to say that I was her only option. When Megan and I discussed my sister moving in, Megan didn't like the idea. She mentioned that I was too young to take on such a responsibility, questioned what would happen when we eventually have our own kids, and noted that our place was too small. However, she didn't outright say she had a major issue with it. I obviously couldn't turn my back on my sister, so I went ahead with it despite Megan's reservations. Although my sister has always been friendly to Megan from the moment they met, Megan remains indifferent, which sucks because my sister really admires her and enjoys talking to her. I just thought maybe they don't connect because of my sister's age. A month ago, I bought my sister a Nintendo Switch since she's always wanted one and all her friends have one. I felt she deserved it because she does well in school, helps with chores, and is generally well behaved. She loved it and has been taking good care of it. Megan wasn't happy when I bought it. She actually sulked. Megan would borrow the Switch incessantly, and my sister never said no, maybe because she felt pressured. But Megan would use it so much that it felt like it belonged to her. My sister never complained. She would just patiently wait for her turn. Sometimes Megan would use it even when my sister was at school, saying she gets bored when I'm at work. All this made me uncomfortable, so I asked Megan to please cut back on using the Switch, as it was a gift from my sister. Megan agreed, but was clearly upset and gave us the silent treatment for the rest of the night. Last week, when I came back from picking up my sister from school after work, we found her Switch broken. And that's putting it lightly. It looked deliberately smashed. My sister was devastated. When I asked Megan what had happened, she told us she accidentally dropped it, but it was obvious she was lying. When I pointed out her behavior and the times she seemed to have an issue with my sister, she got annoyed and told me everything was fine until my sister moved in. I called her childish and asked her to please pack her bags and go back to her parents' house because I needed space and time to think. This only made her more annoyed, but she eventually left. Last night, her best friend texted me to tell me that I was an a-hole for kicking Megan out, especially knowing how rocky her relationship with her parents is. Does this make me an a-hole? Not the a-hole. She sounds vindictive. You deserve better. She is, and to think I thought we had a future together. She should pay to replace the Switch. She is unemployed. I'm the one who is paying rent, bills, and everything else. Not the a-hole. She isn't your wife. She does not get a say in your decision to take your sister in. And she is quite frankly a despicable person for bullying and intentionally hurting an 11-year-old who looks up to her. On top of that, she sounds like a terrible partner too. You work and let her live rent-free, and she does nothing all day but play on a Switch and bully your sister? And look at that. The first time you stand up to her BS and she already ran to her friend vilifying you. Dump her like radioactive waste and tell her friend to eat glass. If she cares so much, she can take on the insufferable burden that is your ex. I spoke to her beforehand to let her know so as to not take her by surprise. I was really taken back by her reservations, but decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. Not everyone welcomes change easily, and she is an only child who doesn't understand what it's like to have siblings. But I see now that she is not a very nice person, because who would have an issue with an 11-year-old that looks up to you and is just happy to be in a stable environment? and to go as far as destroying something that she cherished and then lying about it. She just seems unstable, and I don't want her around my sister anymore. She wouldn't survive living with her friend. She always trash talks her, shaking my head. Last story. Am I the a-hole for being happy that karma is getting my ex-husband tenfold? I'm 31 female and my ex-husband is 33 male. We were married for 7 years. I was naive back then and didn't know who I was marrying. So in part, it feels like my fault for not being more vigilant or walking away much sooner. As we all know, there are two sides to every story, but those were the most miserable 7 years I ever had. Between his drinking, poor financial habits, and his constant disregard for me and our inability to communicate, I was not having a good time. There were days I'd have full mental breakdowns, and he would mock me or try to diminish who I was as a person during those episodes. He thought very highly of himself, to the point that many people who know him believe he's an actual narcissist. If you've ever dated or been married to one, then you know the emotional warfare they put you through. He would make me second-guess myself in arguments or daily conversations that I started to believe my memory was glitching. Whenever I tried to discuss him not drinking, he'd give me ultimatums about how much he should be allowed to drink, or he'd tell me I could leave if I didn't like it. I could never discuss finances with him because it always led to a big fight. Eventually, I stopped bringing it up, but we would still be in constant financial crisis month to month, even though we both had decent paying jobs. I go out to pay for groceries he knew I was getting, check our bank account in the morning, and then by the time I'd get to the store, my card would decline. Every week, our account would be negative by hundreds. It got so bad he took out loans without my knowledge, opened credit cards, and financed things without communicating with me. Between his drinking, vaping, buying takeout instead of eating leftovers or packed lunches, loans, financing, and credit cards, we never had money. He was very verbally abusive too, and used various tactics to wear me down. From talking to me like a child when I was upset, to pushing me into a corner even when I asked to take a break from the conversation, to blowing up or acting tactfully calm to push me to my limit until I exploded. It was exhausting trying to talk to him about anything because I never knew how he would react. Don't get me started about sex. He was not a nice or loving person when it came to intimacy. He was very coercive and pushy for years, despite me telling him multiple times that I struggled with intimacy due to traumatic experiences as a child and teen. The more he pressured or guilted me, the harder it was for me to feel any desire. I started feeling like something was wrong with me. When I was alone, I'd cry and ask myself why I couldn't be like other women. I was attracted to him, but it was challenging for me. He would take it personally and say things like, "Husbands and wives need to be intimate, or it's not going to work out." There was hardly ever any foreplay or warm-up for me. Sometimes I just let him do what he wanted so I could be left alone afterward. It never felt loving or comfortable. He would berate me for seeking advice from friends or family. It ticked him off to no end when I reached out to people who cared about me, accusing me of talking trash about him. Always playing the victim, or running off to tell everyone our business because that's what you do best. In his eyes, I couldn't talk to anyone about our business except him, or I was defying him or making him look bad. Eventually, it came to our 7-year mark where I asked for some time apart. He had stopped trying at his job and had fallen into a depression. He wanted me to support him, but he was worse than ever, and I didn't know how to keep supporting that. I wanted out. When I approached him about a separation, he was sad, but supportive at first. Then one morning, he completely flipped out on me as we were getting ready for work and demanded a divorce instead. He didn't want to try to reconcile or even consider getting back together after some time had passed. He said he didn't trust me, accusing me of wanting the separation so I could go to sleep with whoever I wanted and then come back when I was done. It couldn't have been further from the truth, but he constantly accused me of cheating. I, of course, cried and had to go to work like that, sharing our one vehicle that I paid for because he had destroyed our second car. So I endured an uncomfortable, emotional 40-minute ride to work with him, trying to keep my emotions in check for the day. It wasn't fun, but like with everything else, I kept going. In the weeks leading up to my moving out, I paid all the last month's bills in our home so he wouldn't have to. It was a nightmare. He would go from regretting me leaving to threatening me, cussing me out late at night over the phone, to being calm and forgiving again. Soon he revealed that he had slept with a coworker he was friends with while we were still married. I'd already been concerned about how close they had become over the last 3 years, with him confiding in her about our marriage and constantly defending and supporting her. I wasn't surprised, but I was still angry when he used it to rub my nose in it. Mind you, our divorce hasn't been finalized, and I had only moved out a few weeks earlier, leaving him with almost everything except my car. This relationship didn't work out. Shocking, I know, which led him to try coming back months later. When I denied him and made it clear it was over, he freaked out. He stalked my house, threatened me, harassed my family, and eventually I had to call the police on him. Since then, he got a better job, bought his own car, and planned to move out of our old house. He rubbed his new job in my face and told me he'd be fine without me. Recently, I heard he got his car repossessed, was evicted from our old house before he could move, lost his fancy job, and now lives with roommates somewhere I don't know. On top of that, Aaron's, a furniture financing store, called me because somehow I'm still listed as one of his contacts. They were trying to reach him before taking him to court for theft because he hadn't paid a cent and moved without informing them. After all he put me through, I laughed myself silly. But a small part of my conscience still feels bad for him because he was someone I loved and spent many years with. Though in the end, he did me the biggest favor I could ever ask for by telling me he wanted that divorce. Thank God. Question. You listed a mountain of bad things that he did to you and then you say that he didn't try to reconcile with you, as though you wanted him to? Back then I did, but since being without him and going to therapy, I strongly recognize how unhealthy that was for me. Fully leaving an abusive relationship can be extremely hard when you feel weird attachments to the person. You're not the a-hole for feeling relief and even joy at his misfortunes. After enduring so much emotional turmoil, it's natural to feel that karma is finally catching up with him. You deserve to celebrate your freedom and the closure that comes with it. Your happiness is valid. Honestly, if joy were a crime, you'd be serving life without parole right now after all that emotional roller coaster. You deserve to ride this wave of happiness like it's the last ride of an amusement park hobby. You didn't love him. You loved who he fooled you into believing he was. He was never that loving person. It was a mask, and after he had you, he took off the mask. What he did was deliberate and calculated, for his amusement and gain. Stop feeling any guilt, please. Not the a-hole. This is a good point. I definitely felt tricked for a long time and found myself arguing with him in terms of who he was when we first met, versus who he became shortly after getting married. It was always the way he truly was, and I couldn't see it. Small edit/update. I have since gotten an incredible job, a new car, and I live on my own. For years, he made me feel like I could never do it, that I wouldn't be able to stand on my own 2 feet without him or ever be independent. I was wrong to believe him back then, and he was wrong to underestimate me. I did not expect so much positive outreach, so thank you for that, everyone. It has been a roller coaster and a journey for me, but having so much support is such a beautiful thing. Thank you again a million times over. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that I won't be quitting my job to be a stay-at-home dad, even though she's quitting hers to be a stay-at-home mom? Basically this. My wife, 26 female, and I, 32 male, are expecting our first child in June. My wife is an orthodontist and I work in tech. Both of us earn pretty decent and contribute equally to the household. My wife has been debating whether she should take a break from her career for 2 to 3 years to focus on our baby. She's leaning more towards becoming a stay-at-home mom. I obviously would support whatever she decides. If she wants to be a stay-at-home mom for a while, that's good. And if she decides she wants to continue with her career, we have enough resources to hire a full-time babysitter. We've had many discussions over it, and it always ends up with her wanting to be a stay-at-home mom. Yesterday, she told me that she came up with this idea. She'll be the stay-at-home mom for the first 2 years, and after that, I quit my job and become a stay-at-home dad for a while. I told her that if she wants to be a stay-at-home mom, that's her choice, and I would help her with the baby in every way possible. But I don't think I'd like to quit my job. I suggested that we could just hire a full-time babysitter whenever she feels like she's ready to go back to working. My wife thought I was being mean and unreasonable and selfish, and putting my career over my family, and stormed off. I did try apologizing for arguing because I don't want to make her so upset during this phase of the pregnancy, but she's refusing to even talk to me. She's told about this to her parents, and I've been getting texts from them saying that I'm not treating their daughter right. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. That's a delusional expectation for her to have. No one wants gap years in their resume without careful consideration, especially in the tech industry where everything is very fast-paced. I had a baby last March, and I work 1 day a week for this exact reason. No gaps. Luckily, I have a close relationship with my employers and they're okay with this. Not the a-hole. Not at all. Not everyone wants to be a stay-at-home parent. That's what she wants. She really can't expect you to stay home if she wants to stay home. Absolutely right. I would never want to be a stay-at-home parent. I love my kids, but I also like having a job outside of the home. It just wouldn't work for me, and that's okay. It's also okay to desire to be a stay-at-home parent, but you can't force that on anyone. Not the a-hole. If you are supporting her choice, she should support your choice. If there were financial issues with taking care of the child, things could get more complicated. But as stated, that doesn't seem to be an issue here. Not the a-hole. Being a working parent does not make you a bad parent. She clearly wants to have a full-time parenting experience, and that's great that you can both make that happen. But it makes no sense to force either of you to do that if that's not what you want to do, especially when you have the resources for high-quality care regardless. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé that my friend's trauma is more important than her comfort? My best friend lost a parent a year and a half ago, which led him to a mental health crisis. Our friend group has been picking up the pieces ever since. He's doing much better now that he's in therapy, but he's definitely gone through it. What has complicated matters worse is my fiancé. It goes without saying that I love her, but she's the definition of a busybody sometimes. My best friend is a very private person. She knows something happened with him, but she doesn't know the details of what that something is. She probably never will, but because she's around me and my friends often as we live in the same house, she hears bits and pieces of the story and presses for more information. I try to circumvent this as best I can. For example, I step out of the room for specific phone conversations. But still, it's hard to limit the discussion about it sometimes. If it's necessary we bring it up and she's around in person, we'll refer to the Nolan situation without giving specifics. Nolan will also stop by my place at night when he can't sleep. This doesn't happen all that often, maybe twice a month. He'll text me or call me saying he's outside. I'll go sit with him and maybe smoke a little bit, then I'll head home. I wait up until I know he got home safely, then I go back to sleep. My fiancé hates this. She claims the phone calls always wake her up, which they don't. She just sometimes happen to wake up for the bathroom while I'm outside. And that me not being in bed is alarming. This brings us to last night. Nolan stopped by, and when I came back inside, my fiancé said she was putting a stop to it. She said all the sneaking around is making her paranoid. She doesn't feel like she can properly trust me or be a part of my friend group without knowing the details, and that Nolan needs to stop relying on me so much. I told her that no matter whether we're married, dating, whatever, she will never have any ownership over my friend's trauma, and that she was never going to be able to order me around in regards to it. I also said her comfort was less important than someone's actual physical well-being. She was obviously hurt by this and went to stay with her mom after work today. Am I the a-hole? Edit. She knows Nolan lost a parent. She doesn't know the aftermath beyond the statement that he had a mental health crisis. Yes, he has specifically asked me to not tell her. You're the a-hole. Imagine everyone code talking around you. Your fiancé stepping out to take phone calls and having secret meetups in the middle of the night that you can't ask about. Being excluded and made to wonder to that degree would make anyone crazy. If she came here, I'd tell her to leave you immediately. If I were the fiancé, I'd think my partner was cheating with one of his friends, and his friends are helping to cover it up. Right? And what's with all the secrecy? You're fine telling strangers on the internet, but you can't just tell the person you're marrying that your friend lost a parent and it affected him in a really bad way. Instead, you're choosing to make her feel like she's crazy. That's the kind of behavior that wedges huge unforgivable crevices in a relationship. You're the a-hole. The issue is that Opie completely rejects her feelings and says they don't matter, which is the wrong approach. Opie doesn't have to say a thing more than what he has said, but he needs to do better in making his fiancé know that her feelings are as valid as well. None of that involves saying anything more about Nolan's issue more than what he said. You're the a-hole. But honestly, I think Nolan is emotionally manipulating you at this point. There is a major difference between being intensely private and using this event as emotional leverage to get your group to drop whatever for him. Nothing bonds people like freaking trauma, but your whole friend group takes this to an extreme. After reading that Nolan only shows up to your apartment and reacting insanely to being asked, "How are you doing?" by your fiancé, it is not normal to lash out at that question even if you are private. It's a very normal question, and I'm sure he was asked by numerous other people than her. OP, I really think you need to evaluate whether or not your friend is really emotionally needy or just doesn't want to lose you to your fiancé. Also, I have many other questions, but truly you're an unreliable narrator. I think we need to hear the fiancé's side to confirm my thoughts. So glad someone mentioned the friend's manipulative behavior. Wonder how supportive Nolan would be if someone else experienced a loss. Sounds like the kind of person who would make it all about them somehow. An entire friend group is dealing with this a year and a half later? Seriously? There's more here. Definitely an unreliable narrator. I took a look at Opie's replies and he said this: I'll take a little sleep deprivation and a few yawns at work any day over not being there for someone I love. Is it just me, or is OP way more invested in Nolan than his fiancé? Is OP more in love with Nolan than her? If so, he needs to let her go for her own benefit. She should not be second fiddled in his heart. Nolan is someone I love, but fiancé is a busybody? Yikes. Next story. Am I the a-hole? Sister-in-law wants to apologize 4 years later. So this one is a doozy. Buckle up, folks. So I met this woman, 34 at the time, we'll call her Jess, when I was 28. My brother Kurt, 24 at the time, also worked with us. He's a married man at this point. Her and I started sleeping with each other with no real crazy strings attached, but certain agreements nonetheless. If you're sleeping with other people, let me know, etc. Including a rule that she made, stating she'd never sleep with my brother. Well, a few months passed and it's my birthday, so I threw a party at my house. Weirdly, Jess, my brother and my brother's wife didn't show up and didn't answer any of my messages. Wouldn't you know it, Kurt was cheating on his wife with Jess. Not only did this create a tumultuous relationship with my brother, but I had to uproot my work environment for a new place and new friends as Jess lied and told people we never did anything together. So they thought I was a jerk. Then my parents even got involved and begged me, knowing what he did, to allow him to stay with me after his wife threw him out. Then Jess and Kurt get married. So now she's my sister-in-law. And in the 4+ years, she's never apologized. Kurt isn't the greatest there either. They have also never even attempted to be an aunt or uncle to their only nephew. In 4+ years, I think they bought him 1 present, maybe 2. They've never asked to visit, planned a day with him, nor even FaceTime to say hi in 4 years. Now, she sends me an email out of the blue, only after I've been saying for years how super insane this all is, to apologize to me. She didn't even spell my wife's name right in the email, nor acknowledge her lack of even attempting to act like an aunt or a family member. And I'm 100% certain her parents and family don't actually know the real story, and they've reached out to invite me to places, including ruining our family's Christmas with my parents by flying in, and my parents even chose to go over there, instead of being with their only grandson. Am I the a-hole for not supporting their marriage, attempts to have children, or general want for them to be around as a family in a way that could directly affect my family's life? Now for the comments. Somebody somewhere put pressure on your former lover to apologize to you, and she did do poorly. You don't have to know nor care who is pulling your strings. My guess is that they want something, but I am a suspicious person. Just because we are offered an apology doesn't mean we have to accept it. You would be a saint if you did. Are you a saint? You know you don't have to be. Not the a-hole. I am sure your life is rich and full even without your brother and a second wife in it. I bet they want money. He said they're trying to have kids, maybe infertility. I bet they want him to be the sperm donor. Not the a-hole. To me, cheating with your sibling's significant other is a loud and clear "I don't care to keep you in my life anymore" declaration. If my sister did that, I'd accept her for who she is and say, "Message received and registered, all the best," and honor her life choices by never speaking to her again. Another tack you could take, ask if she's making amends by correcting prior lies she spread about you and being honest about her actions. If the answer is anything other than a clear and full yes, say that you want to support her journey in living a better life. But playing along with her lies will only enable her to further hurt herself and others. So you'll wait till she's ready to begin an honest life. Then wait. Not the a-hole. And for what it's worth, for anyone reading this, if you're hooking up with someone and she says to you out loud, "I've got a rule that I've made for myself, that I'll never sleep with your brother," you stop hooking up with that person, because that is an insane thing to say. Huge red flag in retrospect. I'm just gonna say it though. I think she's beating around the bush with this apology and wants money. Like, for example, money to help her have a baby. They definitely want something. People like her don't just apologize out of the blue unless it's for their own potential gain. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend she's losing friends because her world revolves around her kid? So I, 20 female, have a friend, let's call her Anne, 23 female, who got pregnant from a one-night stand. The father didn't want to do anything with the child, so she is a single mother. Her daughter, Kate, 2 years old, is really cute. I love babysitting her, but she's all Anne cares about now. For example, she often cancels meetings with friends because of her. I understand that sometimes things come up, but this happens often and she gives reasons like, "Kate is really clingy today," or "Kate really wants to go to the zoo." And even if she is there, her daughter is all she can talk about. She shows us a bunch of pictures, talks about her sleeping, eating habits, her diaper content, her favorite songs, everything. And while I would be interested in them, if you don't stop her, she can literally talk about this for hours. And even if I try to change subjects, the topic of Kate comes up again and again. A week ago, we had a 2-hour-long coffee meet. And when I asked a server for some water, she said, "I want Kate to drink more water." And then for the rest of the meet, it was about how she wants to teach Kate to drink more water. Yesterday, I babysat Kate, and I stayed there after and put her to sleep. We started talking, and the topic of being a single mother came up shortly. She told me how hard it is to parent alone, and how distant she feels from her peers. I tried to be emphatic, because I understand that being a young single parent is always challenging. But then she said how people show their true colors, and listed a few of our friends who have been distant with her. She called them fake friends and witches, which I don't like. I told her that most of those friends wanted to be child-free, and that maybe talking about Kate made them uncomfortable. She dismissed it, and said that if they were true friends, they would love her kid as much as her. I told her that she is having unrealistic expectations, and that just because her world revolves around Kate, it doesn't mean that everybody's too. She got really upset and accused me of shaming her for being a single mother. I told her I'm just trying to point out that not everybody cares as much about Kate as her. That her constantly talking about her kid can be tiring. She got angry and told me to leave, so I did. Today I woke up with angry messages from our friends saying that Anne is a struggling mom, and I should have shown her support. I feel bad about how I phrased it, but I don't think that I was being an a-hole here. I do understand that Kate is a very big part of her life and that she wants to talk about her, but I think there is a healthy limit to that. I am closer to Kate than most of our friends. Some of them never even met her, so it is like hearing about a stranger's every little habit all the time. But tell me, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Unless you're drastically altering your phrasing for us here, what you said wasn't ridiculous. It was factual and valid. She pushed and is pushing her friends away by only having one topic of conversation and expecting everyone to be as excited about it as she is. She can join a mommy group for that. OP, tell your friends they can support her better by actually babysitting for her and for hanging out with her more. You, the unsupportive friend, should take a step back and not babysit or visit as often. Not the a-hole. I think you were trying to do her a favor by telling her that when she's with friends, they want to talk about things other than her child. I mean, I get it. I was a single mom for a while too. But honestly, there were times I would go out with friends and absolutely not want to talk about my daughter or the mommy part of my life. I just wanted to be an adult hanging out with my adult friends. The friends that are blowing up your phone, do they have an issue with her going on and on about Kate? It is actually really weird, because the same friends that usually complain about Anne talking about her child are the same friends who are angry at me. I think they feel like it's okay to say this when she doesn't hear it, but not okay to say it to her face. Not the a-hole. These friends are being fake. If you wouldn't say it to your friend's face, then you shouldn't feel comfortable saying it behind their back. You weren't shaming her for being single. OP, I dump all of your fake friends. Aunt's going to come running trying to guilt you into babysitting again because the other friends that stabbed you in the back won't. And guess what your other friends will do because you won't babysit anymore? They'll try to guilt you too. How good of a friend is Anne if she's monopolizing conversations with her friends without their input? She's obviously not listening to any of you, except to steer your conversations back to what she wants to talk about. Am I the a-hole I upset my pregnant wife and caused her to cry? My wife is 2 months pregnant. Yesterday was my birthday. When I went into the kitchen, my wife told me that she was going to work and wouldn't be home until 8. She didn't even acknowledge my birthday. I asked her if she had made any breakfast. She usually cooks breakfast for me on my birthday, but she told me to manage with cereal. I thought maybe she wants to surprise me or something and just kept quiet. My parents, siblings, and friends called me after that to wish me. I cooked lunch for the both of us and drove to my wife's office to spend time with her. I sat in the park opposite to her office waiting for her to come out for lunch. I think one of her colleagues saw me waiting for her and informed her, because she came down soon after and told me to go back home and not embarrass her in front of her colleagues. I handed her the lunch and asked her to at least have it instead of the cafeteria food. She took it and threw it into the trash. I was hurt and embarrassed, so I immediately left for home. I was really upset by then and no longer wanted to spend time with her. I went to a movie, ate at my favorite diner, then went to the beach for the rest of the evening. When I went back home, my wife surprised me with a cake and party. My in-laws and parents were there. I ignored my wife and went back into the room. My mom got mad at me because apparently my wife was crying. I then proceeded to narrate everything that happened that day to everyone present. My mom was the only one to side with my wife because she's pregnant. My wife defended herself, saying that her colleagues were teasing her by calling me a hand-picked husband. Now my mom is saying I'm being a baby and that my wife is pregnant and I should be making her cry. My in-laws and my dad are supporting me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Having a surprise party has nothing to do with throwing the lunch in the garbage. Opie stated that wife agreed and knew he would be there. Then she backtracked when her co-workers made fun of her. These are two separate issues. She made you think she did nothing for your birthday so she could surprise you later. People think that makes the surprise bigger. It doesn't. It just sucks. She is the a-hole for the way she handled lunch. She is the a-hole for not addressing the situation with you later, apologizing for it and having a normal conversation about it. Also, being pregnant doesn't mean to get to be a jerk and then cry when someone calls you out on it. It's not a get-out-of-jail card for awful behavior. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You're obviously looking for attention from your wife. She tried to hide your surprise party by hurting you and pretending she forgot your birthday. She was overly mean. Who cares if her friends made fun of her at work? They only did that because they're jealous. She threw the lunch she brought in the trash. She should not have been crying over your reaction. She should be crying over her awful behavior. She ruined your whole birthday and wants to cry since you don't want to see her now. Absolutely not. Just because she's pregnant doesn't mean you don't have feelings, that those feelings aren't valid. Hormones might be the cause of it, but it's not an excuse to be a prick to your partner. I could understand not making breakfast. It feels funny not to acknowledge your partner's birthday, even if you have something planned for them later. The lunch thing was totally uncalled for and totally would have ruined my day. She shouldn't really give a crap what her colleagues think, especially if they're using an insult like handpicked. They're people who aren't worth worrying about. Happy belated birthday. I hope you enjoy the movie. Next story. Am I the a-hole for turning the oven off while cooking Thanksgiving dinner after my husband kept shouting orders at me? I, 33 female work-from-home job, have been married to my husband, 37 male working in the military, for a year. We had a long-distance relationship, and I'd met his family a handful of times. I wasn't allowed to take part in Thanksgiving dinner preparation till I was officially married into the family. This year, my husband invited his family to spend Thanksgiving with us. I was happy to cook Thanksgiving turkey for the family, but the thing is, whenever we're having guests over and I'm the one cooking, my husband pops into the kitchen every few minutes, literally shouting stuff like, "So how we doing? The chicken's not ready yet? Hurry up, let's go." And "That shrimp ain't going to cook itself." And let's go, come on. Guests are starving." And "You're too slow, move faster." And "Come on, let's go. Like I was in the military or one of his recruits. He has frog voice from constantly yelling. Him constantly pressuring me like that cost me so many injuries because I crack under pressure and get really stressed, resulting in having accidents. Thanksgiving Day, while I was cooking dinner, he did the same thing. He kept coming into the kitchen saying, "Folks are getting hungry. What's taking you so long?" Then full on shouting, "Come on, let's go," and "Hurry up, let's go, move." I was like angry at this point, but his family were dumbfounded. His mom offered to help, but I said thanks and warned him to stop or I will stop cooking. But he doubled down with an expected 4 minutes. Let's go. I stop, turn the oven off, and tell him I was done, no more cooking. He starts arguing with me, saying he can't stop mid-task. But I apologized to the family and tell his mom she was welcome to finish the turkey. But he didn't allow her and told him he was taking them to eat out to spite me after what I did. I was shocked. I didn't expect this. They literally got in their cars and left. He got home by 11 and said what I did, turning the oven and refusing to serve his family who were guests, were tasteless and irresponsible. I said it was putting me under pressure, and I couldn't take it, but still said this was on me since he is used to military routine. And I'm acting like I'm surprised with how he tends to get things mixed up between work and home. It's been days that he keeps cold shouldering me for ruining our first Thanksgiving with his family. Despite saying I'm not angry, I got better things to do, his family's pissed. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Get out. This man is abusive. He orders you around and punishes you when you do not comply. He then uses the fact that he's in the military to excuse his actions and place the blame solely on you. His family have his back, so he will get worse. Get out early before that happens. This is who he is. He is an abuser who thinks he has a right to control you and punish you how he sees fit. Girl, both my grandfathers fought in World War II, and they knew damn well they'd been enlisting for World War III if they spoke to their wives that way. The military is no excuse. Your husband is an abusive and grateful a-hole, not an a-hole. Right, he can't implement certain methods from the army in the household. It's an amicable and hospitable environment, not a battling for a fight. So, when's the divorce? The behavior you've described is clinically termed verbal and emotional mistreatment. No one should ever have to endure that, especially from a spouse. Not an a-hole and you're being mistreated. There's no sugarcoating it. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for standing on a chair while 7 months pregnant and then blaming my husband when I almost fell? I'm 7 months pregnant and I can't reach the top shelves in our cupboards without standing on a chair. I wanted to make a snack, but I couldn't reach one of the ingredients to make it, and climbing on a chair at this point is both difficult and not something my husband wants me to do. So I went to ask my husband if he could get it for me, but he was on an important work call, so he told me to wait 5 minutes. 5 minutes turned into 30, and by that time he had to be in a meeting which lasted over an hour. I got impatient and I was hungry, so I decided to just climb on the chair and get it myself. I was just grabbing it when my husband walked in and asked me what the hell I was doing. I didn't hear him approaching, so his voice scared me and I almost fell off the chair. He tried to use it as justification for why I should have been on the chair in the first place, but I told him it was his fault because if he hadn't scared me, I never would have almost fallen. I also said it was his fault because he had not got it for me when I asked, and he said he was sorry but he had a meeting. I asked him what the point of being the boss was, if he couldn't be 30 seconds late to help his pregnant wife quickly, which in hindsight was a petty thing to say. This really upset him, and he told me not to blame him and that I shouldn't have used the chair in the first place, since we had already agreed I wouldn't. He also told me not to do it again. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. Buy a step stool like an adult, or rearrange your pantry. I think everyone sucks here. If you walk in a room and see a pregnant lady standing on a chair, yelling suddenly is a truly terrible reaction. Really should not yell suddenly if you see anyone balanced on anything that isn't aware you are there. She could have fallen off a step stool as easily as a chair if startled. You're the a-hole. This wasn't a husband dinking around on his phone, tinkering with a car, gaming, etc. He was on a work call and you were impatient and wanted a very specific snack. You could have waited, but chose not to. Be an adult and take responsibility for your poor choices instead of blaming your husband. Your husband took responsibility for not asking for a quick break to help you out. You're an a-hole for not taking responsibility for your peace in this situation. Next story. Am I the a-hole for having my wedding on brother's divorce anniversary? I, male 28, have been engaged to my fiancé, female 26, for almost a year. What caused the delay was my future mother-in-law falling sick. My fiancé and I decided to have our wedding on January 11th, 2022. We've already booked a venue, set the guest lists, food menu, etc. My parents live hours away, but once they received the invitations, they called to confirm the date, then demanded I drop everything and come alone to talk about the issue they're having with the date. I took time off work and went to see them, and they sat me down to remind me that on the 11th of January 2 years ago, my brother Isaac, 30, got officially separated from his ex-wife of 8 years. They went on about what a dreadful day that day is for the family at Isaac, and told them he won't come to my wedding since this day happens to be his divorce anniversary. Unless I change the date, since he said he's planning on getting drunk and crying his eyes out for doing what he did, and caused his ex to leave him. I was flabbergasted. I couldn't tell if they were kidding, but I politely said I'm sorry, but not changing the date, period. Dad angrily said, "Why the rush? You have a lifetime ahead of you. No harm in moving the wedding date. Think about it." I explained that my fiancé and I already paid for the venue and set everything up, so we can't cancel it now. Mom firmly told me to leave my fiancé out it because she had nothing to do with the conversation we were having. I got upset and said I'm not changing my wedding date. And Mom said that I'm clearly choosing a day-long celebration over my brother, and warned me that I'll have to live with the fact I ruined my relationship with him over this. Dad added telling me to think of it this way. I'm getting married on the very same date my brother's marriage ended, and asked how I can possibly not feel guilty for having my wedding anniversary be my brother's divorce anniversary for years to come. But I argued that Isaac's only himself to blame for sleeping with someone else while married, and my ex-sister-in-law was right to decide she was having none of it. My parents justified it as he was drunk, but the outcome's the same. Before I left, they said if Isaac isn't coming, then they too won't come to the wedding, which devastated me because I want my family with me to share my joy. Because this is a big deal for me, and I wasn't sure if my parents have a point seeing more and more family are saying they won't attend if I'll still have my wedding on January 11th. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, and I'm confused. I'm currently going through a divorce, and I already have at least 3 anniversaries. The day she left, the day she told me she definitely wasn't coming back, the day the decree in eyesight was granted, and there will be another when the decree absolute comes through. Then of course there's our wedding anniversary, the anniversary of the day we met, and her birthday. So many dates that people can't steal for happier reasons. Clearly, I've been doing it wrong, because I have completely failed to demand that my entire family arranges their life around these poignant but ultimately meaningless dates. I hadn't realized that I was supposed to spend the rest of my life mourning a marriage that is over and refusing to enjoy anything else. Yeah, it's the same reaction I had when they told me that, which is just ridiculous. But whatever Isaac says goes, I guess. Not stay home. Your parents sound like awful people. Prioritizing your brother's bad decisions over your most important day. If anything, that should be a day they want to forget and should be glad to have a happier anniversary to replace it. Also, who the hell celebrates their divorce anniversary? That's seriously messed up. Oh, boo-hoo. I'm a garbage person who cheated on my wife and she left me. Let me ruin this day for everyone else for the rest of my life because of my bad decisions. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for siding with my husband when he insulted my brother? I'm 27 female, the youngest of 4 children. 31 female, 33 male, and 35 female. I got married 6 months ago to my high school sweetheart, 27 male. My husband has been part of our family since we had our first anniversary together. He knows all my family members and they adore him. My family is very problematic though. All of them, except one of my sisters, are babying my 33-year-old brother too much. My brother is single and he's disappointed no woman approaches him. He used to date a girl 3 years ago, but she broke up with him because she couldn't deal with his immaturity. My brother is very immature and has a superiority complex. He's always putting other people down, he's very judgmental, and he always wants to make himself the center of attention. He's also insulted my husband behind his back multiple times, and I've gotten huge fights with him about this. He has admitted he's mad that my husband, who's younger than him, has his life set, and he thinks my husband owes him respect because he's older, and demands my husband never speaks of his goals or achievements in front of him. It's gotten so bad to the point we've gone low contact with my brother. My mom, dad, and one of my sisters believe that life is unfair for my brother, and they said they wish he had what my husband and I have. My mom also believes that my brother is too good for any woman, since no woman deserves such a precious person like him. I'm now pregnant with my first child, and I invited my family into a casual dinner to make the announcement. We invited my brother too. But then during the announcement, my brother commented something along the lines of, Oh, now my dear brother-in-law is showing off about knocking up my sister, which was very insulting to both me as a woman, but also my husband. Then my husband then replied to him, before I could talk, and told him, with this attitude, you still wonder why no woman puts up with you? You complain about being alone too much for someone who displays behaviors that will be the reason you stay alone forever. Now apologize to my wife and then to me. My mom, dad, and sister sided with my brother, but my other sister sided with us. I told my brother that he either apologizes or he walks out, but how he ruined our announcement with his entitlement. My brother got up and left. My parents and sister stayed, but my mom and sister took me to the side and told me I'm the a-hole for siding with my husband and embarrassing my brother by throwing him under the bus, and how I could have sorted this out in private without speaking up. Not the a-hole. If you can't handle being publicly called out for being an a-hole, don't be an a-hole in public. No one threw him under the bus. All he had to do was apologize, but he doubled down. OP, would your father be okay someone talking about his wife like that? Or make that kind of statement to his wife? I'm betting no. He'd be okay with a son/brother saying that, because he's had it so hard. Not stay home. Why should your brother be allowed to be a jerk in public, but your husband can't defend you from jerks in public? Right, because brother is special. Well, I guess you should accept that being around your family is just too painful for the poor guy, and you should never subject him to that again. You gave to protect him from being exposed to the pain of your husband's, and your child's presence. Finally, congratulations on your little one. Not stay home. Kudos to your hubby for speaking the truth. Your hubby did the right thing, as have you. Your family are enablers. Your brother will never get better. He will always be dependent on your parents due to the entitlement the enabling causes. Not only is the husband a freaking star for what he did, he's also given advice that the brother should really listen to. He's been more helpful than the brother deserves. If only certain family members could remove heads from bottoms and see that.